Okay, this is a very good question. What motivate me to in this area? I think that because of the role as a talent partner and also career advisor to our client talent partners, to our clients, and career advisor to our candidates, I'm able to witness the first-hand disparity and also biases practices across the industry. So motivated by a strong sense of fairness, doing the right thing is very important, and also doing things right, right? So I hope that I'm able to be part of the change agent to create a much more fair and also equitable practices across the industry. The good thing, as we observe today, I've been working across the industry for more than 20 years. I've been personally observing a very tangible impact where there's an increase in diversity of talent pool, where it's not only able to, with the diversity practices, internal hiring in particular, is able to actually foster a better culture of innovations and also creativity. And also very important to prepare to actually allow the organizations to have a better diverse perspective that which are value and also integrated into a much more strategic discussions. And also, I've been seeing with a much more diversified organizations, the employee is actually feeling a much more greater sense of belonging and engagement. So a lot of company organizations right now are aware that it's very important to ensure that their DEI is actually in place to attract and retain the talent that they want. Because at the end of the day, um, people, people people is the most valuable and expensive asset of the organizations. With the current volatility of the business, the retentions become the key to make sure that the organization is staying ahead of the competitions. I think that in short, my motivations is actually to ensure that we are continuously seeing a positive shift in terms of prioritizing diversity and inclusion, because um, I hope that this will paving the way for a more equitable and inclusive future in the workplace. I think based on my observation and perspective, the current state of DEI in the workplace, particularly within tech across APAC, present a very mixed picture still. Like what I shared earlier, on one hand, there have been a very notable efforts and also initiative in aim at promoting DI in tech space across APAC. Many companies have recognized and acknowledged that the importance of building a diverse team, because it will help to foster inclusive workplace where eventually could be translated in much more innovative and also creative organizations. So there are a lot of efforts have been putting in to help to increase the awareness, advocacy, and also we are seeing a much more investment putting in the DEI program itself. However, despite of all these efforts, significant challenges and also disparities still persist. The tech industry in the APAC continue to certain extent still male dominant into certain core area of specialization. For example, cybersecurity, with women and also underrepresented group facing barrier to entry and career advancement in particular. There is a very strong lack of diversity in leadership positions. These have been proven with a lot of statistic shown across the industry. So, beside this itself, we are seeing issues such as unconscious bias across the practices, in particular on the recruitment process, systematic barrier, which um, intentionally or unintentionally continue to hinder the progress toward greater diversity and inclusion. So what we are seeing, like women, ethnic minority, LGBTQ plus individual and people with disability still encounter discriminations, microaggressions, and unequal opportunity in recruitment, promotions, and also even compensations itself. So, however, despite these challenges, I still believe that there is a reason for optimism. Many organizations in APAC regions are increasingly recognize the business imperative of diversity and inclusions and taking concrete steps to address the issues seriously. So there is a growing momentum in the faster speed, I would say, and larger scale around initiatives such as gender diversity quotas, diversity training program, and also inclusive hiring practices. I believe that with the sustained efforts and collective actions, are needed really to drive a much more meaningful change in the tech industry space, in particular in the APAC region. So there are certain areas that, as I shared earlier, for example, fostering partnership between industry stakeholder, government agency, education institute, and community organizations to address all these barriers to make sure that we are actually collectively coming together to promote the diversity at all level of workforce, be it entry level until experience. So by working together, I do believe that the tech industry itself will realize its full potential collectively as a much more diverse, inclusive, and innovative sectors that technically will be a direct reflection in terms of the richness of the talent, region talent, and diversity. Based on the observations, there are certain area and town common challenges that organizations facing in DI practices. One of it is very common, which is unconscious bias, like what we mentioned during the hiring process, because this will eventually impact the hiring decisions. So we always, when we actually engage with clients, we always observe whether there is a tendency in terms of unconscious bias in the hiring process. If let's say we are actually observing there is a tendency, we will start to raise awareness and also working with clients to develop a much more structured hiring process to minimize this impact. The second part of it is actually limiting diversity in talent pool. Organization always struggle to attract certain diverse pool because there are certain preferences across the hiring manager, particular in term of industry, in term of domain part of it, which historically homogeneous talent pipeline. So we need to address this challenge. A lot of time that we address the challenge with clients by proactively sourcing candidate from diverse background, leveraging on targeted recruitment, headhunting strategy, and build a partnership with the diverse community, because by doing so we are able to prove and show it to clients that we are able to actually, once we actually expand the funnel, we are able to get a better pool and also candidate pipelining. And then the third one will be inclusive culture, where there are a lot of culture that have been inherited early on. So it's very important for company to make sure that they continuously driving an inclusive culture, because this is a very important thing to make sure that we are able to hire, recruit, retain, and develop the people that we want. So this can be further enhanced with facilitating culture competency training for employees, promoting inclusive leadership practices, and also very important to fostering an open dialogue within the employees group about diversity and inclusions. Uh, the fourth one where we are observing the challenges is actually resistant to change. Some employees may resist that this initiative is actually not applicable. It could be potentially due to fear of change. That's very common for us as a human, that we perceive change as a fear, perceive it as a threat for their status or opportunity. So these challenges, when we're actually working with clients, we actually working together to help fostering a buying and engagement through a very clear communications. There will be a fair platform and opportunity across everyone, and then involvement of those that key stakeholder in the process, because by doing so, it demonstrating the business of uh, it demonstrating to the community and also employees that this is a very fair and also inclusive practices. The next one we are seeing, one of the areas is actually lack of resources. Not every organization will have the budgets and resources to actually implement DI, because we are not talking about just financially, but also about human resources, that the resources that could be potentially implementing effective diversity and inclusions initiative. So what we actually suggesting to those clients, that when they are actually facing this lack of resources challenges, what we actually working together is actually finding a partners, leveraging our existing resources, and then last one, um, I think, like I mentioned this earlier on, is really about measuring the impact. So it's very a lot of organizations where they have the intentions to implement it, but I think once implemented, the struggle is really about effectively measure the impact of their diversity initiative and also demonstrate return on investment. So what we work with the clients is actually make sure that there are certain KPI are in place to make sure that we are able to track the progress, conducting a regular assessment, to do a health check and also survey together from the employees, and using data to make an informed decisions. I think that challenges along the way, it prompt to happen, it meant to happen. We are dealing with people. I think that this required a lot of multifaceted. Definitely, there are several effective strategies and best practices that organizations can implement to enhance their DEI, in particular in their hiring process. I think that, as I shared earlier, diverse sourcing channel is very important with the current multi-generations that we are having. Company need to look at it at the variety of source beyond traditional job board, social media hiring that need to come into place to make sure that there is a very strong diversity focus to make sure that every potential platform have been leveraging to cater and also capture the different talent pool. The other area that really I do see that the law company that should start to really look at relook into their job descriptions, to really review and revise their job description to ensure that they are inclusive and free from biases. Use, for example, use a gender neutral language and focus on essential qualifications is always about skill-based hiring right now. So rather than unnecessary prerequisite that may actually exclude certain candidate unintentionally. The other practice that we recommend is actually potentially looking at blind resume screening. By implementing a blind resume screening, we are mentioning that to remove certain identity information such as name, gender, age. I think that the law practices already in the market that we are seeing that only name, we doesn't really put in like gender and age part of it in the resume, but we're still seeing a lot of company actually when requesting us in term of profiling, we still ask a specific questions. So we hope that this will help with the blind resume screening. We hope that it will help to mitigate the unconscious bias and ensure that candidates are evaluated based solely on their qualification and also experience. Structure interview with a diverse interview panel, that is very important, with standardization questions and evaluation criteria to make sure fairness and also consistency. Train the interviewer, very important to actually educate and train the interviewer to make sure that they avoid asking bias or discriminatory questions and really focus on candidate skill, competency, and fit for the role. And pipeline development program, that's one of the things that we are seeing. There's a very strong area that we are seeing that improvement could be further implemented, because invest in pipelining development program to nurture talent from underrepresented group and prepare them for career opportunity within the organizations. It's not, we are always encouraging clients that if, let's say, there are certain skill set or domain or talent that you're looking at within the tech side, knowing the competition is actually very, very intense, it's good to look at the different area or pipeline. For example, not only looking at FTE, FTC, but also opening up third-party contracting as part of the interim resourcing, to make sure that when there is a seasonal demand coming in, you are able to make sure that the supply of the demand is ready, and also ensure that you doesn't uh, let the existing staff get burned out due to the seasonal peak demand. So data tracking and analysis. So make sure that start to really collect and analyze the data. Once you actually set out the diversity metric, you can start with a few metrics that we talk about, for example, like the profile received, the interview shortlisted process. Make sure that there is a measurement of impact. For example, the sustainability metrics that we talk about, to make sure that there is a demographic compositions on the candidate pool, hiring outcome, that eventually that reflected as an employee's retention rate. So we believe that by gradually implementing this strategy and also best practices, organizations can definitely enhance their diversity in their hiring process and create a much more equitable and inclusive workplace. So I believe that fostering diversity is not only benefited to individual, but also organization, because it's able to allow to contribute to a broader societal goal of equity and also representation in the workforce. Definitely, leadership play a very important role in fostering a diverse and inclusive workplace. Leaders set the tone, establish priorities, and allocate resources to shape the organization culture and influence behavior at all level. So, based on our observations and also sharing from the best practices from the clients, these are some of the efforts that we could be leader could be potentially help to contribute to the DI agenda within the organization. Setting the tone. Leader must articulate a clear commitments to DI, both verbal and actions. By championing diversity as a core value, an integral part of the organization's identity, leaders send a very strong message that diversity is just not a checkbox, but a fundamental aspect on how the organizations operate. Creating policy and also practices, leader play a very key role in developing and implementing policy practices that promote DEI. These include, for example, establishing hiring practices that prioritize diversity, implement inclusive policies such as flexi work arrangement and accommodations for diverse needs, and ensuring that diversity is integrated in all aspects of organization decisions making process if possible. Third, fostering inclusive leadership. Leader must model inclusive behavior and hold themselves and others accountable of creating that inclusive workplace. These could be potentially include actively seeking out diverse perspective by forming a focus group across the organization, listening and evaluating the contributing to all employees, by setting up the channel of feedback and confronting biases and discriminations whenever it addresses it's actually happened. So the Fourth one that we're looking at is actually providing resources and support. Leader must allocate resources and provide support for DI initiative. This could be potentially looking at financial support for training program, staffing for diversity focused role, and infrastructure to support employee resource group and diversity network. Fifth, promoting transparency and accountability. This is one of the key factors. Leader must establish a mechanism for tracking progress on diversity and inclusion goal and holding themselves and also all the stakeholders across the process accountable for the result. This may include regular reporting, meeting, putting diversity metrics, measurement, tracking into management meeting, conducting diversity audit and assessment by by incorporating all the diversity goal into the process evaluations and incentive potentially. Engaging stakeholder. So make sure that your leader might make sure that they actively engaging with all stakeholder, be it employees, customer, to solicit feedback, build consensus, and foster collaborations around diversity and inclusion. The stakeholders should not only limited to internal stakeholder, but also external stakeholder collectively as a community. Last but not least, continuous educations and developments. Leader should always invest in their own educations and developments on diversity inclusions topic to deepen their understanding and also enhance their effectiveness as advocates for change. This may include participations in training program personally, attending conference and workshop. There are plenty of workshop and program have been running on the DI agenda and seeking out mentors and advisor with expertise in this area. Part of it, I strongly believe that effective leadership contribute and essential for fostering a diverse and inclusive workplace by demonstrating a commitment to DI policy and also practices, able to actually create an environment where employees feel valued, respected, and empowered to contribute to their best work, which directly translated and correlated to the business performance and also sustainability. Once again, thank you very much for Fawit for inviting me to share my insight. Feel free to connect me at LinkedIn and hope that we are able to keep the conversations open within this space and looking forward to have the opportunity to collaborate further if that is an opportunity given. Once again, wishing everyone a great day ahead. Thank you.